A very good morning to all of you. Myself, Atish Kumar, lecturer from Government Polytechnic College, Batala, and my topic is the cost estimation. Today, I discuss over the cost estimation. The main factors are cost, effort, and risk. First of all, the definition of cost estimation. It is basically the calculation of probable cost of an item well in advance to its manufacture is known as cost estimation. Cost estimation includes the anticipation of material, labor cost, and overhead expenses, etc. Okay, this is the basic diagrams of the cost estimation. All these factors affects the cost estimating. First of all, cost estimator, then estimating methodology, then project information, then current data, after that historical data and all data, then estimate, and it makes all the cost estimating. This is the basic diagram of cost estimation. Now another diagram of cost estimation, in which the first the user requirement, estimate size, after that estimate effort, and other the data from the past projects, and estimate cost, and from the resource and estimated schedule. This is another diagram of cost estimation. Okay, another definition of cost estimation. The cost estimation is the process of developing a well defined relationship between a cost object and its cost driver for the purpose of predicting the cost. The cost predictions are used in each of the management function. First one is strategic management, another one planning and decision making, another one management and operational control, and last one is the product and service costing. Now first of all, strategic management. Cost estimation is used to predict costs of alternative activities, predict financial impacts of alternate strategic choice, and to predict the costs of alternative implementation strategies. Second, planning and decision making. This is the most important factor in cost management. Cost estimation is used to predict costs so that management can determine the desirability or alternative option and to budget expenditures, profit, and cash flows. Third one is the management and operational control. Cost estimation is used to develop cost standards as a basis for evaluating performance. Last one is the product and service costing. Cost estimation is used to allocate costs of products and service or to charge user for jointly incurred costs. Now the functions of cost estimation. There are so many functions of cost estimation. The basic functions are as following below. First, economic feasibility of project. Cost estimation gives a clear and complete picture of finance required for a new project. So entrepreneur can review his idea in the light of cost estimation and tailor his expenses accordingly. Second function, economic soundness. It gives an indication of the economic soundness of the project. Next, pricing. It helps in fixing the market price of the proposed product, manufacture or buy. This is the next function of cost estimation. It helps in determining whether it would be more economical to purchase an item or to manufacture it in plant. Fifth one is design improvement. It helps in improving or modifying the design to make the item more economically. Next function, manufacture time. It helps in evaluating the time for the manufacture of the component and time to delivery of the component. Overheads estimation. It gives the complete detail of overheads expenses like packing, transportation charges, rent, watch and ward, and another administrative expenses. The next and last function is standard for comparison. By cost estimation, a base standard is set up against which we calculate the actual expenditure. It also maintains the previous estimation records for future references. Now, the methods of cost estimation. First one, high-low method. Second one, work measurement method. Third one is regression method. First, high-low method. Because of the precision in the development of the equation, it provides a more consistent estimate than the visual fit and is not difficult to use. Its disadvantage is used only to selected data points and is therefore subjective. Second, work measurement. The advantage is accurate estimate through detailed study the different operations in the production processes. Third one and last, regression. Quantitative objective measures of the precision and reliability of the model are the advantages of this model. Disadvantages are its complexity, the effort, expenses, and expertise necessary to utilize this method. Now, there are 6 steps in cost estimation. The 6 steps in cost estimations are as follows. First one, we define the cost to be estimated. What we cost to be estimated. Second, determine the cost driver, the main cost drivers. Third one, collect consistent and accurate data or past data. Then graph the data. Next one, select and employ the appropriate estimation method. Next one, assess the accuracy of the cost estimate. Choosing the cost drivers is often the most important step since the model accuracy is based upon selecting the relevant and appropriate cost drivers. Estimation procedure. Once the data and other technical informations received from planning department, the estimating department starts to work out on estimates. The data about the products includes first one, specifications and requirements of the product. Then type and quantity of the material which is required. Third, blueprints of drawing of the product. Now, this is the diagram which shows the estimation procedure. There are two main things, user inputs and other is that is in sky blue portion and in green portion that is cost estimation procedure. In user inputs there are 3 main points: construction cost, service life and interest rate. And in cost estimation procedure there are again 3 points: estimate annual construction cost which is from the service life, and then estimate annual maintenance cost. When we combine these two, then we calculate total annual cost. And next procedure of cost estimation. Next point, methods and sequence of operations which is to be performed to forming the product. Next, machines to be used for making the product. Then schedule time, and then labor rates, etc. Estimation procedure carried out in the following steps. First one, part list of the product is prepared. How many parts are to be made of the products, and then the list is to be prepared. Second, decision is made about which component should be made in the factory and which component should be produced from the market or outside the supplier. We can purchase the component or we can make the component which is more economical, we goes with that. And then weight of the materials with various allowance is determined. Cost of material either at market price or at forecast price is determined. Price of vendor items or bought out parts from the market, it is determined, and we can go which is less on both sides. Then labor cost for each operation including manufacturing, assembly and inspection is determined. Next, cost of necessary special tools or equipment is prepared. Another step, by adding labor cost into the material cost, prime cost is calculated. All these costs, labor cost, material cost and prime cost is calculated before making the actual product. Elements of the cost. Cost is nothing but amount of resources given up to achieve specific objective, that is manufacturing goods or services, etc. In manufacturing firm, costs are generally classified on the basis of different heads. We shall discuss each head in turns, as in figure shows elements of cost. This is the basic diagram which shows all the elements of the cost. Elements of cost are basically classified into three categories. One is materials, second is labor, and then is overhead. Again, the material cost is classified into direct material cost and indirect materials. Then again, labor is again divided into two categories, direct labor and indirect labor. Then overhead. Overheads are again divided into two categories, direct overheads and indirect overheads. This is the another diagram of which shows all these three elements of cost. The most important and having much more percentage, that is material cost. The basic or prime cost is the material cost, that is equal to 73% according to this figure, and labor cost, this is near about 23% to overall cost of the product, and then 4% is overhead, that is shaded with green portion. This is the total cost of the finished product. It may be plus minus in any other products. Now the description of elements of cost. First is material cost. Basically, material cost is made up of material required for the manufacturing product and bought out materials or parts from the market. Material required for the production is of two types. First is direct material and second is indirect material. This is another diagram which shows the material cost classification. Now the material cost of the company are basically divided into 6 categories. First, the raw material and finished product cost, fuel and energy cost, packaging cost, then spare part cost, then handling materials cost and other material costs. These basically the total material cost in elements of cost. First one is direct material cost. Direct material is the raw material which is which is processed in the plant and finally from the finished product. Any standard parts purchased from the market which is the part of finished product will also come under the category of direct material. For example, wood for furniture, mild steel rod for bolts, high speed steel bit for making a turning tool for lathe. Then indirect materials. Indirect materials are those which helps in the processing of direct materials into the finished product. These are not the part of finished product. For example, of indirect materials are cotton waste, lubricating oils, cutting fluids, coal, oil, gas used in arc welding, polishing paper, quenching oil for heat treatment. The material cost falls in the category of overhead costs. Then second main element of the cost is the labor cost, which covers about 27% of cost of the total cost of the product. Labor cost, amount of expenditure incurred on workers for manufacturing product is the labor cost. Labor cost of two types. First is direct labor cost and second is indirect labor cost. Now first, direct labor cost. The workers or operators who actually process the raw materials either on machines or manually are direct labor. For example, operator operating lathe machine, forging, hammering, punching press, welding set, etc. These are the category under the direct labor. Indirect labor. All other staff aspects, sales and administration which helps in running the plant or firm forms the indirect labors. Indirect labors including foreman, supervisor, maintenance staff, etc. When the direct materials cost and indirect labor cost is subtracted from total cost of the product, the remainder cost term as expenses. Okay, it is the direct material cost minus the direct labor cost, that is expenses. Expenses may be either direct or indirect. Direct expenses and indirect expenses. These are the diagram which cover all the costs. In blue portion, prime cost. Prime cost is combination of direct material cost and direct labor cost. In red portion, there is factory overhead. It includes the three main category, that is indirect materials, indirect labor, other fixed and variable overheads. And in green portion, that is conversion cost, it is the basically one part of prime cost and 3 parts of the factory overhead, that is direct labor, indirect materials, indirect labor, other fixed and variable overheads. These are the diagram which show all the elements of the cost. Direct expenses. The expenses which are directly chargeable to the finished product expect direct material and direct labor, known as direct expenses. Cost of jigs and fixtures, layout, design and drawing, these all are under the category of direct expenses. Cost of research on work done for a product. Cost of transport on supply of special material needed for a particular product. Indirect expenses. These are also called as own costs or overheads. It is the addition of cost of indirect material, indirect labor and other expenses that cannot be charged directly to a particular job. They may be divided into following categories: factory expenses or overheads, office and administrative expenses, selling and distribution expenses. First, factory expenses. These are also called work on cost. These expenses includes the indirect labor, indirect material, insurance, maintenance, depreciation of machine, power, etc. Second, office and administrative expenses. These are the expenses given up for administration of a firm. These expenses include cost, rent of the office building, salaries of office staff, telephone, fax, internet charges, depreciation of office equipment. Selling and distribution expenses. These are also called as marketing overhead. These overheads include salary of sales staff, packing and transporting charges, publicity and advertisement, cost of manual catalogs, price list, rent of godown, commission to salesman and distributor, etc. Now, elements of cost, having another figure, this is the total cost of ownership. The total cost of ownership, which includes training, security, support, service, upgrades, maintenance, repairs and purchase. All these 4 elements are sum and make the total cost of ownerships. Okay, now next, depreciation. The reduction in value and efficiency of the plant, machines, of any fixed asset because of wear and tear due to passage of time, use and climate condition is known as depreciation. Depreciation may also be defined as method for spreading the cost of a fixed asset over the life or expected years to use of the assets. This is depreciation continuously decreasing. Most of the fixed assets are worn out while in use a period of time. This wear and tear is unavoidable, but it can be minimized to some extent by proper care and maintenance, plus the efficiency of these assets also reduces with the passage of time, and at one time it becomes uneconomical to be used further and requires replacement. The amount of money charged for replacement is depreciation. Some money must be set aside yearly from the profits earned by the equipment itself, so that when the unit becomes uneconomical, it can be replaced by new one. For this purpose, the initial cost of the machine or equipment plus installation charges plus repair charges minus scrap value is charged over the economical life of the machine of equipment. Now, there are so many methods to calculating the depreciation. These are listed below. First one, straight line method, diminishing balance method, sinking fund method, sum of the years digit method, the insurance policy method, machine hours basis method, production unit method, revaluation method, the retirement method. All these methods are used to calculate the depreciation. This is the diagram which covers the main methods of depreciation, that is straight line method, constant percentage method, quantitative survey method and sinking fund method. All these methods are discussed below. First method is straight line method. This method is also called fixed installment method. In this method, every year a fixed amount is kept aside as depreciation charges during the economical life of the equipment or machinery. The amount of depreciation, that is initially cost of the machine plus erection and installation charges minus scrap value, is distributed over the useful life of the machine in equal periodic installment. There are formula for straight line method to find the depreciation. Let C is equal to initial cost of the machine in rupees. S is equal to scrap value in rupees. N is equal to estimated life of the machine in years. Then we can calculate annual depreciation charges by using the formula, that is C minus S divided by N in rupees. Next method is diminishing balance method. The machine or equipment depreciate fast in the early years and later on slowly. Therefore, according to this method, the depreciation fund is more during the early years when repair and renews are not costly. This method is also called reducing balance method or percentage on book value method. The book value of the machine goes on decreasing as its existence continues. Hence, in this method, a certain percentage of the current book value is taken as depreciation. In this method, again a formula by which we can calculate the depreciation. Let X is equal to fixed percentage for calculating yearly depreciation. C is equal to initial cost. S is equal to scrap value. N is equal to estimated life in years. Then yearly depreciation factor. By this method, we can find yearly depreciation is equal to x is equal to 1 minus s upon c raised to power 1 upon n. Then sinking fund method. In this method, a depreciation fund equal to the actual loss in the value of asset is estimated for each year.